Hello everyone, this is False Mind Reads, and today I'm here to review Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. Now this is the third and final book in the First Law trilogy, and feels so nice to finally finish a trilogy out. It's been last May was when I had last read right through a trilogy, and this was such a good trilogy. This book in particular, probably my favorite book out of the lot of them, because the thing I really love about this series is when it gets into the politics of the world and the interplay between the different factions of Ottawa and Adua. I don't know, the capital city of the Union, and the different interplays between the Magi and the government, and the past and the present politics and all this stuff. And this had enough of that. And my main problem with the first book is that in the second half it just kind of lost, it kind of went out of focus. It was kind of blurry, and then it went out of focus, and it was just kind of a few plot threads bouncing around and not much else. In the second one, it was the fact that it had a really good political plot line in Dogska, and then it just kind of fell off in the second half into just, the war sure is going on. Yep, there sure is a war on. It was good. I still really liked it. I still really enjoyed my time with it. But it just took out my favorite part of it. And this book, I think, did the war plotline better than, the stuff in the north, I think, was better than in book 2, and the stuff with the Gurkish was better than in book 2 as well. I think that the thing with Giselle, Giselle's still my favorite character, though not my favorite plotline. I really enjoyed seeing where where he went from book 1 to book 3, and it was really nice seeing first few chapters of this of Last Argument of Kings. Such a good time for Giselle. It's peak Giselle, where he's the best person he'll be. He's not subjugated. He's not this or that. He's right at his peak. And then Logan. Okay, my big complaint with Logan Nine Fingers is that the text and the world treat him in two different ways. It's contrary, right? So in the world, he's seen as this maniac, right, by his peers, and it makes sense because he never takes time to explain, even to his closest friends, that sometimes he just sees red. It's not unheard of, I guess. In the real world, it's not unheard of for someone to just see red and not have control over their actions. And if he just explained, hey dog man, hey group of friends, sometimes I go red and I see nothing, and when I just go and murder people for no apparent reason, there is no reason behind it. He doesn't explain this, and it kind of pissed me off, because even his friends are like, you're kind of crazy, man. What's going on? He's like, even though we explained it in the last book to the people he was traveling with then, he's like, sometimes my head goes fuzzy, and I'm not in control, and I'm not there, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh God, what did I do? And it's like, dude, explain it. So that was so annoying. You don't even, you can just say, this has been happening, and I didn't know how else to explain it, but I feel like you've got a right to know. It doesn't excuse me of anything that I did in the past, but it just, so when really the turning point is when he kills Thunderhead. When he kills Toldoru, that's when I feel like Black Dow makes the decision, this guy gots to go. He needs to leave. He needs to go. And it really leads to the fracturing of the North. The great men of the North start to choose their own sides, and the whole thing with Logan's gang and Dogman's gang is it was the slow crumbling of the gang. If Three Trees hadn't died, stuff would be so much different, but he did, and it's sad to see, but it makes sense. the stuff with West was fine. West, ever since this, like, the first book, he was great. He had a great climax with his it sucks to say, but like the moment, my favorite moment of reading this series so far has been the shock and horror of West's actions against RD in the first book. It was just this moment of utter, like, wow, like I didn't think it could get this real this fast. And I don't know, just the downward spiral. It's not been downwards, but like he had this character, and like he was kind of like the one with his head screwed on straight, and he could say something about it, and then he just kept taking away his voice. And I get it, it works, like on a textual level and like on a narrative level. I'm like, this is satisfying. On a character level, I'm like, it hurts. It hurts to see a character that used to be up here just slowly slide down the ranking and go back and back. One person who never moved from like solid second place was Glocta. Inquisitor Glocta. Just, I think that at first of all, torture doesn't work like that. It's I think this is a more, I don't want to say balanced view of torture, but torture doesn't work. And the fact that it does in this book series more often than not is a testament to the skewed nature of how torture works. Like, torture, when you torture someone, they don't say the truth. Even if they know the truth, they say whatever they can say, right? So there's a lot of people who just go, no, 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 no. Where it should be more like, my mother is alive, actually. My mother did it. You did it. My dog did it. Like, they just start, like, it just, I don't know. It's like, I'm glad that it didn't work sometimes. Like, it was a balanced view where torture is seen as wrong, but it also works, so you have to do it, which in the real world, that's not how it works. Torture doesn't always work. You get the wrong guy, you get the guy who doesn't know all the information, and you torture him for nothing. And I'm glad it showed that, but it just, But Glocta himself was good. And, like, the one thing, like, in the first book, you had this interplay with him and his practicals, which you really lost in the second and third book, which really sucked because, like, he had a rapport with them, even no matter how surface level it was. And I think that is, like, a contributing reason as to why they did what they did, and they betrayed him. It's probably because he started to slip, and he started to lose that rapport, and he started to grant mercy, and it's like, and then Pharaoh, best book for her is in this one. The first book, she's barely in it. She's barely a character. Yulwei and her, like, they're an afterthought in the first book. The second book, it's an improvement. Her stuff with Logan is great, but on page by herself, she barely works. When she's not, like, by herself. In this book, by herself, she works really well. She has just enough plot relevance and her personal stuff. She develops enough to where you can see, oh, Nine Fingers had an effect on her. Oh, this journey did have an effect on her. But she doesn't lose that razor edge that keeps her sharp. Like, you might get cut by the razor, but it's not going to bleed you out anymore. Guaranteed. Just, like, thinking back, and when she almost stabbed West in the hand, I think it was West. Yeah, it was West. Versus the person she is now being like, okay, Severard, you go. Or, okay, you go, Glocta. Like, never, if I see you again, I'll kill you. Which is like, wow, that is way better than most people get. But yeah, it was just a good book for her. Dogman's fine. Dogman, I think, is a lot better in the first and second book. Because basically what happens is he's like, I'm leader. And when he's, like, solo leader, he's great. And then, like, you have him, like, kind of rising up to the challenge, and then he gets his feet swept off him and goes, boom. And then after Logan also gets crowned King of the North, it's like, oh, okay, I mean, I guess, sure. And then you just kind of have, like, him swept up in in the background almost, and it's like, okay, this was a weak book for him, but I know he returns in Age of Madness and maybe in the Heroes or something, but I'm glad he's still around. I'm excited to see what comes next. And like, my overall thoughts on the book is that usually the last two books have been part 1 and part 2, right? They're split up into 2 parts. Part 1 has been my favorite part in book 1 and book 2. And part 2 was my favorite part in this book, just because it had so much payoff, so much like climax. Even though like the climaxes of the first 2 books were good, they just weren't better. I liked the political stuff with Glokta both times. I liked them more, but the stuff with Glokta in this was less like immediate, and it really paid off in the second half. A lot of his politicking and maneuvering pays off in the second half of this book, which is where I think the real strength in the series lies. So yeah, that's my review. I give it a 5 stars on Storygraph. It is just a phenomenal book, a phenomenal capstone to a phenomenal trilogy. If you enjoy fantasy that doesn't focus too much on the magic and is more focused on the characters and the world and the mythology of it and the history of it, this book series is for you, man. It's really a good, fun read. I'm so glad that I took a chance on the first book, because oh man, it paid off. And you know what? I'm already reading Best Served Cold. I'm already a ways into that. It's super good. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye, bye bye bye. Bye 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 bye. Click.